Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Government Rights Podcast. We did a thing. We have a little one now. We did actually want to shoot another podcast in between, well, the last one and having our little one. But, things didn't go to plan there, unfortunately. Just things got in the way. But, yeah, anyway, so she's here now, the little one, little rogue. See if you guys can get a better look at her. Maybe not. So she's the wrong way around. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so that's the biggest thing that happened to us in this last week. She just spat out a dummy. But yeah, man, what a roller coaster of a ride it's been over the last
7 days.
Yeah, well,
Technically, kind of 8 days.
Time of filming, yeah, she's 8 days old now.
Yeah, but like we were ready to go, weren't we? And then everything got pushed back.
Yeah.
So it's been a bit of a...
Yeah, my goodness, man. What a week it's been. She's been keeping us up a lot in the evenings.
Yeah, she's active, isn't she, in the evening?
Yeah, but we're getting the hang of it. We're getting used to how things are going, and she's quite chilled out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty big stuff, you guys. Pretty big stuff. Becoming parents for the first time. It's absolutely just insane. I still haven't kind of like...
I haven't got my head around it yet.
No, it's still doesn't feel real yet. We were at the registry office today to get her birth certificate done and things.
I'm seeing it in writing.
Seeing her name in writing on an official piece of paper. Well, that makes everything a bit more real now. But
Yeah.
Bitsy, come here, darling. Come here.
I think...
Our dog loves getting around behind this table and messing around with cables. Sorry, yeah.
I think we're going to do a video on my channel, aren't we? A bit more detail about all of this, so as opposed to doing it here.
Yeah, the whole journey, because it has been quite
It has been a journey.
It's been an experience for us getting to this point, and it's not been the easiest journey either.
No.
So, but you know, hey, we got there. We got there, and we got the little prize at the end.
Yeah. And no one's coming to take her away, I checked.
Yeah. She's actually ours.
I asked. Yeah.
That's the weird thing, isn't it? Is when you're at the hospital and they're like, right, you can go, and
you're like, really?
Like, what, really? You want us to take this thing? But
yeah. Have I done everything I need to do? Have I learned everything?
She's been with us for a few 5 days now, isn't it? 5 or 6 days she's been with us. Because you were there at the hospital at night, weren't you?
Yeah, I stayed overnight, 2 days, 1 night. So yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So 5-6 days she's been with us. So I think we're doing a good job.
Well,
she's eating, she's sleeping, she's crying, she's peeing, pooping, being sick.
Everything we get asked is she's doing.
Yeah.
So.
She's doing everything that she's meant to be doing, apparently. So yeah, man, what an experience. I can't wait to see who she grows up to be. But I probably shouldn't wish my life away like that, because that's going to be
18,
a little while yet before that happens.
I don't want to wish her life away either, because I want her to enjoy everything.
Yeah, definitely. All right, you guys. So today what we've got for you is a question that somebody has asked on Reddit. Let's bring it up for you guys now. So the question is, lease or buy first bike? Hello friends, I just got my full A license and I'm in the process of purchasing my first bike. I've been looking at 600cc bikes people are selling in my area, and they are mostly overpriced in my opinion. A 2008 Yamaha R6 with 60,000 kilometers for €8,000. But I also understand if I drop a used bike, I won't feel as bad. But if paying that much for a 15-plus-year-old bike, I'd still cry. So should I lease a new ZX6R for €13,000, or just buy a used bike for 8 straight away? Paying it off is not a problem since I have a steady job. Thank you. All right, what do you think, wifey? Because obviously we have both bought and sold motorcycles, cars, leased them, bought them outright. What do you think? Because I think you know what I'm going to say because of my recent history of buying cars and bikes.
I think if I had to hazard a guess, I would imagine you would be like, go for used as opposed to new.
So yes, it depends on what it is though.
Yeah, of course.
So For me, at the stage in my life that I'm at the moment, where I'm trying to put every penny I can into investments and securing our futures and things like that, I don't like leasing anything anymore.
No.
Even with the new MT-09, I had the option to get finance on it, but I was like, no, I'm just going to pay for it outright and just get it over with. Because the thing that a lot of people forget when it comes to leasing, when they say lease here, they mean like PCP. So you're basically paying part of the vehicle off, and then at the end of the financial term, whether that is 48 months or whether that is, I think the maximum is 49 months or something like that for a PCP contract. But anyway, at the end of that, you have the opportunity to pay the rest of your loan, and you get your bike. You own your bike at the end of it. And so the benefit of that is that it makes your monthly repayments lower, but the interest rate is quite significantly higher.
Yes.
Whereas hire purchase, so this is when you're buying a vehicle outright, but on a loan. So you are paying the whole thing off, including the loan, and there's still interest to pay on that. But that's why usually when you get a quote for PCP or hire purchase is more expensive per month, significantly more expensive per month than PCP. But on PCP, the interest rate is much higher.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how they work. But one of the things that a lot of people forget when they look at the when they look at the repayments, all they see is their monthly repayments. They see hire purchase is more expensive, PCP is less expensive per month, so that would be easier to manage on finances and things like that at home every month. So to a lot of people, a PCP contract makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the one thing that you need to look out for is the total amount payable. When you look at that, it's scary, man.
Yeah,
it's a
bit sickening.
Right, so I'll use my ZH2 as an example of finance because it's the most recent thing that I've bought on finance, and arguably it's the most expensive purchase I think I've ever made. No, excuse me. My Audi TT from a few years ago was the most expensive one. That was 25 grand. Whereas ZH2 was like 17, maybe 17 and a half on the road, something like that. But anyway, so when you look at the purchase agreement and things like that, so you have your deposit down, which I think at the time was about 3 or 4 grand that I had as a deposit for that bike. So you put that up front, and then you put in the amount of time that you want to be paying the loan off for, blah, blah, blah. And then you basically everything's broken down for you, but then in really tiny lettering at the bottom somewhere on the document of the finance agreement is the total amount that you would have paid for the whole agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. For the whole thing. And so when you look at this kind of stuff, it's really scary, the amount you pay in interest. But basically, the amount I paid in interest on my ZH2 was the same amount as the deposit I put down, if not anything a little bit more than that. So I put down the deposit of 3.5, 4 grand, whatever it was. So that took the credit, that brought the credit down. So instead of it being 17,500, it was more like 13,500 or 12,500. I can't remember. But then at the end of the term, I would have paid on a loan of 12,500 or 13,500, 17 grand by the end of the 4-year.
The deposit's
period.
Almost like null and void really at that point.
Basically, yeah, the deposit. It's almost like you're paying the interest up front. Yeah. With your deposit, that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
On a finance agreement.
I think just to go back to the question you asked me,
sure.
What did I think before I kind of put it back on you? There's not that much information here anyway about the person. Just go on this specific person's question on how long they've been riding for. So they could have just got...
Well, this is their first bike, so they haven't been riding long. It looks like they might have done some kind of like direct access or something. I don't know. This is somewhere in Europe, so I'm not sure exactly how the training goes or whatever.
So
but yeah.
I think for me it would be the same rules we'd apply to would we recommend to a CBT person. get something used, because chances are you're probably going to drop it, or you're going to do something and you're going to be devastated that the bike has got a bit of cracked fairing or what have you. And £8,000 for, it says an R9,
an R6,
an R6, sorry, or 13 grand for something else.
With 60,000 kilometers, so that's like what, 35,000 miles, 40,000 miles, something like that. That does seem quite expensive. €8,000. I mean, that's about £7,000.
But they could just
in the
choose
UK, so
not to buy that bike.
That is a lot.
It does seem like a lot. But I think if it is someone who hasn't got that much road experience, let's just read between the lines and see what we can get here. I would say, if you can afford it, buy it outright, because then if there's something you want later down the line when you're more confident, you've got the option of leasing it then.
I wouldn't buy this bike.
No,
this R6.
I'm ignoring that as I think that's an example.
I think
right?
that's out of the question. No, well, that's an example of one of the bikes that they've seen.
Yeah.
But that does seem like an awful lot.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, right? So you're committed to buying a super sport, right? So a 600, you could look at a 900, or even a 1000. But anything from basically the late 90s to early to mid 2000s are still going to be really solid bikes, and they'll probably be half that price.
And I think that's a really important thing to define as well, is you can't lease any bike. Certain ages of bikes you can't lease, right? Anything older than 5 years.
I don't know what it's like in other countries,
but
here in the UK, here in the UK, it's the bike can't be any older than 5 years.
Yeah. So if you wanted to have a big bike, but you didn't want to lease it because of the cost, you get a way bigger pool of bikes to look at if you look older.
Yep.
And if you don't mind having an older bike, because actually you think, I'm just going to go to and from work, maybe I live somewhere I can't put it in like a garage, having something that is outright is safer, or it's a better investment, right?
As your first bike, you really should be looking older.
Yeah.
Say similar kind of mileage, so maybe about 60,000 kilometers, similar amount of kilometers, but you should be looking older. I think looking more like 2000, 1998, 99, something like that, because the performance of those bikes are still just incredible, even by today's standards. The 600s, the 900s are absolutely amazing. You can look at half the bikes that we own. The Blackbird, insane motorcycle.
Yeah.
The 955i, an insane motorcycle. The ZX9R that we bought, insane motorcycle. The CBR 600RR that we bought, 2003, insane. These are all insane bikes, and they're all incredibly good. They're just a little bit on the older side. I think some people, they get a little bit worried when it comes to older bikes, so they're going to break down or something like that. But if it's your first motorcycle, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you, because if you drop it or something like that, big deal. It doesn't matter. Mechanically, a lot of these bikes are still going to be sound.
I was going to make a similar but different point to what you just said about, and I've said, like I say, it's from experience. You can get really caught up in the fact that you've got your A license or you've just started riding, and you want a really cool, fun, like expensive looking bike because you want to show off or whatever. So you can get pulled into this trap of there's these shiny new brand new bikes out there that are just I can afford that monthly payment, and I can afford the tax and the insurance. I can afford all of these things. I think people get swept up in that. And it's all very well and good when you're more experienced, but you've kind of almost flipped the narrative for yourself, where you've gone, I've had the fun new shiny bike.
Yeah.
I now actually prefer the older style bikes for various different reasons, and cars for various different reasons.
Genuinely, that is exactly how it is for me.
Yeah.
Where I have just as much fun, if not more fun, on an older bike these days, or even an older car that I can just thrash around. I don't really have to care about all that much, and it's not a big deal if it gets damaged.
Well,
so enjoyment per dollar is insane on some of these bikes. I mean, it's absolutely mad.
Just slight tangent, slightly. Take the example of your TT versus your FN2, your Type R.
Civic, yeah.
because you hardly drove the TT. We didn't really take it anywhere because we weren't sure the parking situation.
This was during the pandemic, to be fair, where we weren't really going anywhere.
No, but even when we did, it was always like, let's take my Civic, let's not take your TT, because we didn't know potentially what the situation would be when we got there.
I prefer driving my older Civic than the TT. So sure, it's a bit older and it's a little bit rough around the edges, but I can redline it. Doesn't really matter. I can throw it around everywhere. I can buy really cheap tires and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't really care, but you get just as much fun factor out of it. Whereas with the TT, everything was far more expensive. Tires were ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Trying to look after it was really difficult. Trying to not curb the damn wheels.
God, yeah.
Oh my God. Because the wheels on that car, right? Between the tire wall's about this thick. So most curbs are taller than that. So you even sniff a curb and you've scratched your rims.
You think about it, and and this is the thing. I've leased my last 2 cars now, and I'm of a similar position where I'm very careful if we're going somewhere. You know, do we take my car or do we take one of the older cars because of damage and stuff like that?
I think we're in a bit of a luxury position here where, you know, we can both afford our own cars and things like that.
No, I know that.
And so, you know, it's a choice for me to buy older stuff if I wanted to. Like our CRV, our Honda CRV that we bought specifically for the little one here. Well, not for her, but you know what I mean. Like
to house her.
To
carry her around.
Take her places and things like that. That car cost me 1,400 quid. It was such a cheap car, and it's done us so good over the last year. I mean, to be fair, I'm saying that now. It's got its MOT in a couple of weeks' time. So it might need a lot of work. I don't think it will, but it might need a lot of work doing to it. But that's the choice that I make, to buy those cheaper cars and those cheaper bikes. But it might be a good idea to have something newer that we've got just in case we need something that is reliable. Yeah.
But by the same token, my point of that is really my Civic was a 2019 Civic, wasn't it? Wasn't my first
2020.
Was it 2020?
Yeah.
Wasn't my first car. My first car was a Peugeot 206, which cost
I love that car.
like 250 quid or something, didn't it?
I love that car.
And
it was so fun.
You loved it, and it was a great car.
Because you just rag it around. Yeah. It cost you like 750 quid or something.
And you had that Renault Megane at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, that was a bit more expensive though. That was my first car.
Yeah, and then you had the ER6 and the Honda and things like that, and then later on you got your first brand new bike. But my point being is that you didn't go, right, I've got a license, let's get a Lambo, let's get something absolutely, or let's be more realistic, let's get a 1 Series for argument's sake. Because I think some common sense has to come into this somewhere. Of if you were to drop a brand new bike, how sick would you feel? And would you be able to afford to repair it?
Thing is, I understand that people want nice things.
Oh, I get that.
And you can afford this new ZX6R, which isn't really that much more expensive on the face of it than that old R6. But just think about the interest that you'll be paying on that. You'll be paying at least another £3,000 or £4,000 in interest. Or excuse me, 3,000 or 4,000 euros on interest on that bike.
Another point to consider. We are in a very, very fortunate position where if you turn around tomorrow and said, don't want the MT-09 anymore, you could go sell it and buy it for something else. You don't have that real flexibility with leases because you have to find the right time to sell it, to get the right money back, to be able to pay off the lease and be able to have enough to... Do you know what I mean? It's a balancing act.
And that's the problem that I had with the ZH2.
Yeah, exactly.
I leased it, and I was hoping that I'd be able to get a bit more money for it, but the money I got for it didn't even cover the total amount, the total amount that I needed to pay off the loan. Yeah. So it ended up being that I had to put in a little bit of extra cash of my own to cover the rest of it, and I had to shop around. I had to go to different dealers to see who would give me the most amount of money for it. I could have sold it privately, but to be fair, who has got 12 grand lying
There's a
around?
lot of those on the market at the time.
There were, and a lot of them were being sold by dealers
And
at
they'd had
around
them for
about
a
11,
while.
12 grand. And yeah, of course, they had them for a while. They just wanted to shift them.
I mean, we actually had
Maybe it depends
to.
on the bike.
We had to travel to pick up your MT-09 for about an hour and a half, wasn't it, or something silly
Yeah.
like that. That was an hour and a
Yeah.
half there, and then the same on the way back. So it's not like it's. I think
The
especially
value of it might drop like a stone. That's the problem. And you'd never know in 4 or 5 years' time, however long the lease is,
for.
whether or not you'd have, if when you sold it, whether or not you'd have enough equity in it to
Yeah.
actually get some money back.
And I think the one thing we learnt with the ZH2 was just because we could afford it didn't mean that someone else could afford it, which is why a lot of them weren't selling, right? Because people
don't
couldn't
know.
afford that's what they said to us when we went down.
Oh, they couldn't afford. Well, apparently people
The
were saying they couldn't
insurance
afford the
and-
insurance. Apparently the insurance on the ZH2s is quite expensive, and it is. But I didn't think it was that bad,
No.
to be honest with you. Again, I
And
had to shop around, but once I
and
found
again-
a retailer that did it, or the insurance company that did it at the right price for me,
Yeah.
it was fine.
And again, potentially your first bike is you're going to have high insurance on it, right? So it's something else to
Yeah.
consider. If you have an older bike which is cheaper, it gives that spare cash for the insurance and all those other sides of it.
So I think, okay, so concluding this question then. So personally, I would never lease anything unless I seriously had to.
Yeah.
Unless I had no choice.
Yeah.
If I could get away with buying something older and cheaper, then I will. Again, we're quite fortunate in the UK where used prices of cars and bikes are rock bottom.
At the moment, yeah.
And they have been for, I think, for
They're
a long time.
struggling, aren't
There's,
they, with
no,
stock?
no. It's not that. It's just there's so much out there at
Yeah.
the moment.
Oh, fair enough.
Cars are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Used cars, they seem to have had a bit of a resurgence over the last few years, post-pandemic. But motorcycles, I mean, the amount of bikes that I buy is so cheap these days, and they're still very, very good bikes. Still plenty of life left in them, loads of fun. They might not be in the best cosmetic condition in the world. They might not have any service history, but they're still really, really good bikes.
Yeah.
And especially if you're willing to learn how to maintain it yourself, so do your oil change and things like that, there's no reason why that bike couldn't last you the same amount of time as a new bike would on a loan. And you would have paid it off outright. So for me, instead of looking at a 2008 R6, you could look at a 2002 R6 or a 2001 R6. You could look at a 2003 ZX6R. You could look at a 1998 Thundercat. You could look at a 2002 600RR. There's so many options out there, and that's just 600s.
Yeah.
You could look at a Suzuki Bandit. You could look at a Blackbird. You could look at all sorts of ZX9R. There are so many bikes out there. An old Fireblade that will be cheaper than what you're looking at here, even with the
think
R6.
It's an interesting.
That's I'm just getting out my concluding part here to this. That's what I would do. I would look even older than a 2008 R6. Try and look at something that you can get for less than €3,000. It's your first bike. If something breaks on it, then guess what? You've got a load of extra money that you can use to put towards the repairs
Yeah.
if they're necessary. More often than not, the bikes are rock solid. You don't have to worry about that whatsoever. Just general maintenance is absolutely fine. Cosmetic condition, sure, might be on the worser end of things. But again, if you drop it, not a big deal. That's what I would do if it's your first bike. Then after 4 or 5 years, then if you wanted to maybe look at something a bit newer, something a bit nicer, then you could look at it then. But between €8,000 for nearly a 20-year-old bike and €13,000 for a new one, that doesn't make any sense to me. So look older. Look older. If you have to, look mid-90s, something like that. Again, especially Japanese stuff, they're all going to be much better than, or they're still going to be really good in comparison to what you can get today. Bikes haven't really changed that much. In this time, in 25 years, they haven't really changed that much. So I don't think you'd be missing out on an awful lot. But that's what I would do. Sorry, yes. What did you want to say?
One thing I was going to say, this is probably showing our privilege a little bit, and I don't mean to come across like that, but with the introduction of ICEs anyway, not ICEs, sorry, EVs.
EVs, yeah.
And ICEs being
phased out,
the way that this person could look at it is I could either have one bike for the next 4 years, or over the next 4 years I could have 4 different bikes. because they could potentially do what you do and change it every year. And they might find a bike they really gel with, or a brand they really gel with, or a style that they wouldn't have otherwise considered because they're tied into this 4-year bike, just plucking 4 years out of the air there.
That's true, yeah.
Whereas, with yourself,
don't rob yourself that opportunity
Yeah.
to swap out bikes every
Yeah.
year or so and enjoy, because it looks like this person hasn't got any real specific
No.
desires for a specific
and
brand or anything like that, which is really good, by the way.
And the great thing that, they've said that they can afford an 8K bike, which is great, or they can afford one that's 13 grand. Let's just, for argument's sake, say they decide to go for the 8K bike. That's another 5K they can put to one side for another bike down the line.
Yep.
It's a
And when
deposit or it's a
That's true.
payment for a bike.
That's true. And then when you think about it, in the 5 years that you would have spent riding this older bike, you probably would have been able to save up enough to buy one of these newer bikes
Exactly.
outright without
So-
having to get at least whatsoever.
And I
So
think
there
this
you
is the
go.
thing. It allows you, if you were to buy a bike that was way cheaper, say 2,000-3,000 euros, it allows you to swap it
See,
out more regularly.
The funny thing is that once you get a buzz for buying old bikes,
Oh yeah, we can't stop you now,
you
can we?
you won't want to stop. The new stuff won't be anywhere near as interesting as
No.
you thought it was.
And this is the thing. This is something that you've, whenever you now come and do a ride and you come home like, oh, what did you think? I can always tell, like, before you've said anything, like, what you think. But ever since you've been buying these older bikes, just you've had that buzz about you that I don't think you get the same kick necessarily or the same vibe necessarily from a newer bike. And like I said,
Yeah.
this allows this person to... Maybe they'll buy a bike in 6 months' time. They'll go, you know what? I don't like the riding position. I don't like this, and this. I actually can now... I haven't tied myself in for X amount
Gives
of
you
time.
so much more flexibility.
I can
Yeah.
swap it out now.
So much more flexibility.
So
Because that's the thing. A lot of people, they might like the look of a super sport or something like that. And that's great. I love super sports as well. But there's lots of other different bikes out there that are just as good, if not even better, depending on the kind of riding style that you like, the riding experience that you like. But yeah, you have a lot of options there if you decide to get something older and cheaper.
yeah.
And you can just swap a bike in and out maybe once every couple of years and just see what's out there, see what different flavors of bikes are out there, because there's
Yeah.
so much to enjoy.
And yeah, you might find a bike
Yeah.
a bit like the ZZR or the 955i.
Daytona, yeah.
I couldn't remember what it's called. Daytona.
Yeah.
Where you absolutely adore that bike. And it took you a bit
Genuinely.
by surprise, didn't it, really?
Especially because
Um,
I thought it was a bit boring at
Yeah.
the start when I started riding it, but actually the more I've gotten to know it, the more I'm like, wow, this is a
Yeah.
great bike.
Or you have the flip side where you think, oh my God, I actually need to have that bike in my life. You get it and you don't
Yeah.
like it. And yeah,
So
buying it allows you to swap out and actually really experience all these different bikes that you wouldn't get a chance to if you leased.
at the end of the day, it really is up to you what you choose to do. But for us, I'm on a journey to try and build up as much wealth as we can before we retire. We want to have our home paid off in 15 years, 10 years. We want to basically have a debt-free life for retirement or even before retirement. If we
That'd
have
be
the
nice.
option to retire early, then that's what I want to do.
That'd be wonderful.
So we are on a different financial journey than maybe other people are. But if you can afford it and that's what you want to do, then I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to stop you. You'd be surprised how much that actually matters when you're riding the bike. When you're riding it, you think, this was $2,000.
Yeah.
How is something like this so good for $2,000? And it just puts an even bigger smile on your face than if you bought a brand new bike, which sure you're going to be happy with, but it just adds a whole new level of happiness and joy about a motorcycle that you were like, wow, that's actually much better than I thought it was.
If you lease a brand new bike, you expect it to be a certain way.
Yeah.
But if you buy an old bike, I think it will constantly surprise you in one way or another. I'm not saying whether good or bad, but it will constantly
Honestly,
surprise you.
in every instance that I've had, it surprised me good.
Yeah.
Very
We've
good.
been really fortunate with the bikes that you've found.
I don't think it is fortune whatsoever. I think it's that just bikes are good.
Yeah.
Old bikes were made good. And bikes are still made good today. But old bikes, 90s, 80s, you see a lot of them still kicking about today. any of them that are kicking about are probably pretty good examples of bikes that have stood the test of time. Like, you can buy loads of ZX9Rs. You can buy loads of Daytona 955Is, T595s. They're the same bike, by the way. They're just different generations. So the T595 is like mid to late 90s, whereas the 955i was like 2000 onwards or something like that. But yeah, there's so many great bikes out there, like truly great bikes out there. And the world's your oyster. I mean, you're looking at 600s in particular, but you could look at even some A2 class motorcycles. Again, don't rob yourself of buying an A2 bike. There are plenty of really good ones out there as well, especially as your first bike, where you know you're not going to get so drunk off the power of the bike as you might do on a 600. 600s are fine, by the way. I'm not really bothered about this being your first bike, but there are lots of great A2 bikes as well, is what I'm trying to say. So again, don't rob yourself of potentially looking at something that's a little bit smaller that might be really suitable for where you are in your riding career right now. And yeah, if you're going to look at a 600, you might as well look at a 900 as well. There are plenty of really good 900cc bikes out there, or maybe even a Gixxer 750 as well. There's quite a few of those kicking about these days from the late 90s, early 2000s that are, again, fairly cheap bikes. I could go on about this all day. I could rant and rave about all of the amazing motorcycles that are available from the late 90s, early 2000s era. And they're all amazing. They're all really good. Unless it's a bike that is literally in a barn that hasn't been ridden in 20 years and it's rotten. If it's not that, it's probably all right.
Yeah.
It's probably all right. And it's very rare that someone who is selling a motorcycle, a used motorcycle, is going to try and fleece you. They're going to try and sell something that is broken or something like that. Because most riders, at least here in the UK anyway, are quite decent people. Like, they take pride in their bikes and things like that. I mean, the only bad experience that we had buying a motorcycle was when we were trying to buy the Thunder Race. We travelled miles and miles and miles, and it turns out that the owner hadn't even tried to start it up recently to make sure everything was all right, and it ended up being a quite severe engine knock. So the only thing is, when it comes to buying older bikes, is you just need to know what questions to ask. You need to know what to look out for. You need to know when to walk away, basically, from a motorcycle. Usually the signs are pretty obvious. Now, the Gixxer 750, there was an issue with fueling. I didn't want to bother with that. I want a bike that I can ride, that I can shoot some videos on, like that day.
I often do.
I don't want to try fixing the bike first before, unless it's a bike that I'm specifically trying to do that with, trying to restore a bike, trying to buy a project. More often than not, I'm just buying a bike that I want to ride and I want to shoot videos on. Simple as that.
I mean, how many times?
And there are lots of examples of bikes that are out there like that.
Yeah.
But you just a lot of the time, if there are issues with a motorcycle, they're very obvious. They're very plain. And then at that point, you can be like, nah, I'm not interested. Like, if a bike doesn't idle properly, if a bike doesn't go through the revs properly, if the bike doesn't get up to temperature properly, if the bike has like sputter or an issue with fuel or something like that, or it cuts out, just dies on you, it has a very severe knocking sound. Like, when I say knock, I mean like really loud, like you can't, louder than the exhaust. But yeah, you guys, that's my advice. It's pretty. It's honestly, it's quite a simple solution to this. Really, it's your first bike. Get something older, even older than what you've been looking at, and try and get something that is good value for money.
For us, it's pretty black and white.
And then later on down the line, if you want to buy something a bit newer, then by all means you can go ahead and do that. But yeah, again, you don't have to look at 600cc. There are lots of other bikes at that kind of weight, at that kind of displacement. You know, sure, they might not be inline fours, there might be parallel twins or V-twins or whatever the case might be, but there are plenty of other bikes out there as well you could look at. But if super sports are, if you're kind of like focused and dedicated towards super sports, there's loads out there you can choose from, old and new. And just, don't rob yourself of that opportunity to buy and ride an absolute gem of a bike, because there are loads out there and they're going for incredibly cheap. I don't know what country you're in, but I'm absolutely certain that if for 8,000 euros it's a 2008 R6, you could look at a 2000 R6 and you'd probably be paying a third of the price, half at least. So it kind of depends in the market in your area, but yeah, that's what I'd recommend. Look at something even older, late 90s, early 2000s. You're gonna have one hell of a time on it. You absolutely love it, and yeah, most of them are really solid bikes. But do you have anything else to add, Wifey, before we sign off for today?
Don't think so. I think I've said everything I wanted to say.
It's again, it's one of those scenarios where, look, we've been there and done it. For me, it'd be an easy choice if I was in this person's shoes. I know what I'd want to do, but if it's your first bike and you're not really sure about the whole thing, like not sure about riding, but not sure about the buying and selling of motorcycles, then this can be a little bit more difficult. And some people find comfort in buying something new because they know they don't have to worry about it, but then they're robbing themselves of all the choice and options that they have.
Just to caveat what you said, they don't have to worry about it for the period of lease. And then you have that concern, like we have with the ZH2, of trying to sell it before the end of the lease.
But I mean, like they find comfort in that they don't in its reliability. There's a warranty.
Sorry. Yeah.
Whereas you buy an older bike, you're not going to get any of that.
No, that's fair.
But that's why I recommend look at something older. Look at something much older. Anyway, that's our advice on you for that. And well, good luck. Buying a first bike is a really big deal, and
it's a special experience.
It is. And whatever you decide to do, I think you're going to be happy with it anyway. Like, you'd be happy with a new ZX6R as well. But I like to have options. I like to have choices. Being tied into a loan for X amount of years doesn't exactly give you many choices, and it kind of limits you in a lot of ways. And it also it strains your finances a lot more. So, yeah. And everyone, thank you ever so much for joining us on our podcast today. If you've enjoyed it, go ahead, leave that like, hit that subscribe button down there, and that notification bell so you don't miss any more from us. And of course, as always, let us know down in the comment section below how you'd approach this problem here, what advice you'd give to our Reddit user here. And yeah, let us know what you would do, and if you have a difference of opinion, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, thank you ever so much for joining us again, everyone. You take care, ride safe. We'll catch you all in the next video. Have a great weekend.